Welcome to the Mortgage Wise radio show and video podcast, where we educate and provide expert advice on personal finance, mortgages, and real estate investing.
Show me the money.
As a result of what we do, our team has helped hundreds of first-time buyers, experienced buyers, and real estate investors achieve their goals of home ownership.
I wonder if there's a connection there.
Here are your executive producers and mortgage advisors, Randy and Veronica Chambliss.
What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Mortgage Wise radio show. And I'm super excited, guys, to be sharing this platform with one of our guest speakers. I'm Randy Chambliss. I'm the executive director with Louisiana Housing Authority. I'm also a corporate branch manager with Geneva Financial, right, which is a national mortgage bank. And I have to my right.
I am Veronica Chambliss. I am the housing director of Louisiana Housing Authority. I am also a corporate branch manager with Geneva Financial. And today, guys, like Randy said, we have a very, very special guest today. But first, I want to welcome you to episode 23.
23, guys. We moving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we moving too. Yesterday, we celebrated 12 years.
Woo,
oh, praise God. All right. That's what I'm talking about.
So today's topic is renewing your mind is a critical step to obtaining life success and personal financial success with Dr. Ezekiel Taylor. Dr. Taylor is a life coach, teacher, trainer, and motivational speaker, a dedicated father and well-read author. Dr. Taylor is a licensed and certified member of the John Maxwell team and the highly esteemed Les Brown Platinum Speakers Network. In his book, The Process of Fulfillment, 8 Extraordinary Steps to Accomplish Your Greatness, Dr. Taylor outlined a set of effective strategies to help readers get out of their own way and experience true fulfillment. So early in life, Dr. Taylor was recognized for having great talent as an eloquent speaker who moved audiences to action. He excelled in sales in the beauty industry with dynamic presentations, but soon found a higher calling. In 2004, he received his Associate of Theological Studies, and in 2010, he earned a master's degree in biblical studies. Dr. Taylor offers workshops, seminars, keynote speaking, and coaching using John Maxwell's proven leadership methods. He has agreed to share his story so others can be inspired and motivated to accomplish their greatness.
Awesome. Listen, welcome to the Mortgage Wise radio show. Dr. Taylor, how are you today, sir?
Oh, I'm blessed and highly favored, brother, as we used to say in the church.
Hold on 1 second. I can't hear you. Hold on.
Oh, okay. Where are we at? Can you hear me now?
Hold on 1 second.
I can see on my end, my microphone is working.
I think it's on our end.
Yep, it might be on our end, so hold on.
Okay. All right. Somebody in the chat said they can hear.
Okay. Yep. So it looks like it's on our end. So we apologize.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay. So we had to put the headphones in. I love it.
Right.
We're gonna talk a lot about relationships today. So that's almost perfect.
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
So listen, before we really dive into the content, we always like to ask our guests to kind of share their stories, right? So the audience heard, the great things you've accomplished, but obviously there's always a story of triumph, a story of growing through challenges. So if you don't mind, can you share your story with us? You can unpack it as much or as little as you would like.
Well, I recently did a podcast with another brother of mine, Glenn Bill, and he actually went through my entire life and what I learned at each stage in life, which I thought was amazing because it really helped me reflect on some things that I hadn't even thought about more recently. But I will share, I come from a family of a single mother. I have a younger brother, and a sister who's gone on to be with the Lord. But in addition to that, my mom did something special. And more recently, I'm sharing this with people because I understand the dynamic of what we're doing at such a young age to pre-program our children's minds for success. And I don't know if you guys know, but I'm also a Chicago firefighter, and I work in what is considered a dilapidated area. Some would call it the projects, but just to go into these dilapidated areas and experience the mindset of the people, it really had me to go back and really review the study on what's taking place at such a young, early age. And it had me to do some reflection on my life. So in my early years, 0 to 7, my mother used to put on this tape. I don't know if you guys remember auto reverse cassette tapes, but she used to put on this cassette tape, auto reverse, every day and every way I'm getting better and better and better. And I didn't realize the impact it had on me until I actually started to preach and teach. Another one of my faith confessions I used to say when I was a pastor or in training to be a pastor was I preach and teach on a level that the world or the church has ever seen before, all to the glory of God. And what I did when I was a pastor, based off of what my mother had done and based off of the concept and understanding of how the mind works with repetition, I came up with a set of what we call faith confessions, something that I would have people repeat over and over again. And part of that theoretical approach was that even if you don't believe it, when you actually say it out of your mind, your ears actually hear what's coming out of your mouth, and it receives it on a different level. And what it's actually doing is reprogramming what we call the subconscious mind. And we're going to talk about that a little later. But going back to my story, my mother didn't allow me to read, didn't allow me to watch television or eat candy. And I had, I ain't gonna lie to you, I hated her for it for so long. I'm like, okay, why do all the other kids get to eat candy? Why can't everybody watch cartoons? But what she had me doing was listening to this on auto repeat every day and every way I'm getting better and better all through the night, and reading books. Well, that actually led to the foundation of what you actually see now. And that's a pre-programming of my subconscious mind for success. And so whatever I put my hands to, no matter what happens in my life, it always turns out and works out for my good. And I know we say that in the church. I know that is a confession that we say, but to actually understand the why and understand how that goes into work. We're in the information age, so people are wanting to understand these dynamics. So that being said, that as a foundation, I always go there now, 0 to 7, and there are Tibetan monks that say, if you give me a child for 7 years, I'll show you the man. Now, if we actually go back and we look at our children and look at the children that are suffering at the hands of poverty, if you will, and a mindset that is lending to a poverty-stricken mindset, we can see why it is that we see what's happening on our streets today. And if someone would just stop long enough and I understand we're approaching everyone with scripture and shoving that down, but understand the psychology to how a child's mind works. We can see that from 0 to 7, even before a child is born, that they are being pre-programmed for a certain mindset. I can even speak to you all and your pre-programming without knowing anything about your parents, without knowing anything about your upbringing. I can see that there was some pre-programming from 0 to 7 because you have been programmed for success. And so what my assignment is now is to try, or not try because I hate that word, but to come into people's lives and begin to unpack what's in their past so they can see that there was a pre-programming to what's happening. So it's almost the fact that you have to take responsibility for what's happening to you. But we as a society, we spend so much time blaming everyone else for what happens to me. Long ago, I just decided, you know what, whatever it is, I'm going to take responsibility for it because I did something to get here. Now, there may have been pre-programming. There may have been pre-programming of me not understanding how to be a father, me not understanding how to be a husband, that led to an excuse that I could use to say that it's not my fault. But if we start with owning whatever it was that got us to this place, we can then go and revisit what actually got us there. And it is a mindset change. So we're going to talk about that a little more. And I know I got off subject a little bit, but reprogramming the subconscious mind, renewing of the mind, be transformed by the renewing of the mind. See, what you're going to find out, and I know you see this in dealing with money management and dealing with trying to reprogram people's minds for actually handling wealth, handling money. What you're finding out is it's a mindset. There's a study that says that I think it's something like 75% of all lottery winners, 75% end up broke within a certain amount of years. Why? Mm-hmm. Because they don't have the mindset for wealth. But there's also another study that said if you take the wealth from the 1% of the population that has the wealth now, and you just take all their wealth, within a span of 5 years, they'll regain it back. Why is that? Because they have a mindset, they have a programming, a subconscious program that has them to actually attract wealth, to attract money, because they're able to handle it. There's a scripture in the Bible, a story in the Bible that deals with the parable of the 5 talents. And it's a powerful story. A lot of people don't see this part of the story, but I'll take you to the end of the story and paraphrase it. What happens is there's a man who goes off and he has servants. And to one servant, he left how many talents? 1 talent, 3 talents, and 5 talents. Well, the moral of the story, when he came back, there was to be an account made of what you did with your talents. Now, we understand from studying scripture that that talent was actually equivalent of about $5,000. But more importantly, it has to do with what has been deposited in you. So here, check this out. So when he came back to the man who he had given the 5 talents to, the man had multiplied the 5 talents and he gave it back to the owner. When he came to the man who he had given 3 talents to, the man had multiplied the talents. Now check out what he said to the one who he gave 1 talent to, or the equivalent of $5,000, or in this case, we talk about the ability to actually create wealth or to multiply wealth. What he told him, he said, what happened with what I gave you? He said, Master, I knew you to be an aggressive and a man who was pretty much, let's just use the word aggressive. He said, so what I did is I took that talent and I went and hid it. Now check out the master's response. He said, you filthy, lazy servant. You could have at least taken that talent and invested it with the bankers. Now check this out. Mm-hmm. He said, so that you just gave me, take that talent and give it to the one who had the 5 talents that multiplied the wealth. And he said, throw you to the outer darkness where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. We understand that in the scriptural realm and in the church as hell or Hades or the second death. Mm-hmm. So we're always talking about people going to hell and to Hades and to the second death because they don't accept Jesus or they don't do something right in their life. Here, there is a parable of the 5 talents that actually teaches that if you don't understand money, if you don't understand investment, if you don't understand how to take what it is that you have, which is your gifts, talents, and abilities, and to reinvest them into people or reinvest them into the earth, that is what qualifies you to go into hell. Now, that blew my mind a long time ago. So it had me to really take inventory of the things that I had, whether it was a little bit or a lot. The relationships that I had, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. And actually, the little money that I have. And you see people all the time. They'll get money, these PPP loans. I don't even want to get into that. They're getting this money, and what are they doing?
Another story.
First thing they're running out doing is buying a car.
Right.
And can I just say this on record? Yeah. They have set you all up with these PPP loans because they have a list of people who have signed documents saying that they have businesses that they don't have, which is a federal offense. And there is a list on the internet that shows every person that got that loan. That's a whole nother story.
How much they got. Yeah.
Right.
And I'm not even going to talk to you about the FEMA camps that they built. Now, who are they building these FEMA camps for?
Right.
For people, because now that the prison industrial system is getting ready to take on a big mass of people that are going to jail, and I'm going to leave that alone. But back to the talents and understanding money. This is what you guys are doing, and I think it's a blessing and it's a wonderful thing that you're doing. But I also think that is a part that we have got to deal with the mindset of the people that you're dealing with, because we can teach them how to manage wealth. We can teach them how to get out of debt. We can teach them how to actually clear up their credit. But if we don't get them to change or be transformed by the renewing of their mind, they're going to end up back with bad credit. They're not going to know what to do with the money they pull out of their homes, even when they get a mortgage. And can I tell you what mortgage actually means? And I know y'all probably know this. I think I told y'all this on our last interview. The word mortgage actually comes from two Greek words, mort, which means death, which you get the word mortuary from, and gauge, which means grip. So mortgage actually means death grip. So if we don't understand going into it that you have got to have a mindset that says, I know how to deal with a death grip, we're going to beat ourselves up.
Absolutely. And, and it's really, really exciting to hear you speak in regards to having the proper mindset to manage money. We don't get money because money is just attracted to us. When you broke, you don't have the right mindset, you have a poverty mindset. You have to be able to have that right mindset. For example, like you mentioned about mortgage, you have people that are refinance their mortgage, pull cash out, pay off some debt, and then 3-4 years right back in the same credit card debt. Then that cycle continues. And we so really passionate about what we're doing, because we know that the number one cause of stress, when somebody type in the number one cause of stress in Google, I challenge anybody to do that. You're going to find time and time again, it's going to say money, the lack of money. And so we look at marriages, you talk to pastors, you talk to family counselors, and they're going and they're counseling marriages. And the number one cause of divorce is money, not agreement with money, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So it's a huge issue. And then when we look at the fact that the crime that's in our communities, you mentioned you work in some of those communities. We in New Orleans at one point, we was known as the murder capital of the world at one point when I was growing up. And so when we look at the crime, we know that our people are resilient, right? You have other nations that are resilient as well. And so when they are threatened with the landlord putting them out and they are afraid of being homeless, when they are threatened of that, I have no food to eat, then the natural thing for them to do, because they don't have faith in the Most High God to be able to supply food and shelter, or faith in themselves to go out and get themselves food and shelter, but they resort into crime, because that's the lowest, quickest, and easiest thing, and it gives them a sense of power when you pull out that gun on somebody, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so then when we look at it and say, wait a minute, and I tell this story a lot too, if the doctor, right, who's providing the organ transplant, one of the things that doctor does is give that patient stress hormones to shut off the immune system so that organ can be accepted by the body.
Exactly.
Now, if that's the truth, which it is, then that means stress actually causes your immune system is low. So now we're in the midst of COVID-19. Prior to COVID-19, you had a lot of people who had high blood pressure, sugar diabetes, cholesterol issues, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So now COVID-19 hit, now we lost income because they lost a full-time job, maybe lost partial of their hours, but all in all, they lost income. So now they're stressed, they're worried, how am I gonna eat? How am I going to have a roof on my head? I have children. So the immune system, the Lord, their bodies are compromised now, and they're more acceptable to the disease.
That's right.
We have that mindset, like you just mentioned, renewing that mind. Like, listen, we can literally potentially save a lot of lives.
Oh, absolutely.
Help people eradicate stress and raise their immune system. We can save lives by lowering and stopping the crime in our community. Because when you have cash flow, money at the end of the day, your debts are gone, your debts are paid off. I am that now. I am debt free now. My living expenses is low and I have income coming in. So there's no worry, there's no stress. So my point of saying those couple of stories is that it's highly important. And that's why we wanted to bring you on to be able to share that. So guys, if you just tuning in real quick, I want you guys to know the topic. The topic is renewing your mind is a critical step to attaining personal financial success and life success. We're with Dr. Taylor, right? So Dr. Taylor, dive in a little bit more about subconscious. You talked a little bit about it. Can you dive in a little bit more about it?
Okay, this is one of my favorite topics. So I want to start off by demystifying the concept of subconscious. So if you could equivocate the subconscious mind with the physical body, I can start there, okay? So when it says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, we're not talking about renewing our conscious mind. We're talking about renewing our subconscious mind. Now, what we actually teach at HD Life is the subconscious mind being the human body. We're dealing with biophysical existences. So I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but what we found is the concept of our thoughts becoming things, or our thoughts actually leading us to have a manifested life, or we can literally start with a thought and these things manifest. It's actually true, but it's not a psychological thing. It's a physiological thing. Because when we think a thought, at the same time as we think that thought fires in our hypothalamus. The hypothalamus actually shoots to our pituitary gland peptides. In the pituitary gland, something amazing happens. A biophysical picture of your thought is created, and hormones are released in your body that match your thought. So your thought actually becomes a biophysical existence. Why is that important? What have we been thinking about? What has the person who is poverty stricken been thinking about? They've been thinking about lack. They've been thinking about poverty. They've been thinking about what they don't have instead of what it is that they actually want. In chapter 1 of my book, The Process of Fulfillment, 8 Extraordinary Steps to Accomplish Your Greatness, surprisingly, I start off with, what do you want? You would be surprised that asking that question, people give you such a generic response. I want to be rich. Well, what does that look like? Rich to you and rich to me and rich to someone else are entirely different things. To a person that does not have food at all, if you give them a bean and some rice, they're rich. But to someone who understands the concept of wealth and understands the concept of actually having and then redepositing into the earth that we have and becoming a conduit of, or a wealth transfer conduit, then it's an entirely different thing. So I start off, even in counseling sessions, I say, what do you want? We're not going to deal with your past. We're not going to deal with traumatic experiences yet, because we have to focus on something. So I get people to focus on their desire. What do you want? I want a house. What does that house look like? How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? How many cars are in the garage? Now, it sounds superficial, but once you begin to get people to think on that level, they are actually firing in their mind, in their brain, or the mind, which is the brain in action, and shooting into their pituitary gland, and hormones are being released into their body that actually match what it is that they want. Now, here's the amazing part. What happens that I see that happens with Randy, you and Veronica, is you have a partner that actually agrees with what it is that is your vision and your dream. So what that does is it causes you to feel better, and those same hormones, and I'm gonna share something with you, the hormones that are assigned to your physical growth. So let's say from 0 to 18, 19 years old, you had hormones that were assigned to you growing physically to look like what you look like. Well, those same hormones are in your body, but what they're assigned to now is the external accomplishments. So that you feel when you have a thought actually creates something in your body. And when you have a partner that agrees with you, it does something even greater in your body. And that in and of itself causes a feeling. Now watch what happens with the feeling. Even Jesus talked about this. When you can marry thought and feelings, then you can speak to the mountain, and you will have exactly what you say. That feeling releases hormones in your body, and those hormones shoot from your heart an electromagnetic field. Now look up the Zeeman effect and the Stark effect. I posted it last week. The Zeeman effect and Stark effect deal with changing the atom that's right in front of you. Now I'm going a little deep, but this is the explanation of the biblical things that we saw in reading the Bible. We demystified the Bible. Now we understand what he was actually talking about. You got to remember, Jesus was talking to farmers and fishermen. He couldn't talk metaphysics to farmers and fishermen. So what he would do is explain it. But now we understand he was talking about the Stark effect. He was talking about the Zeman effect. If you believe to the point that you feel and you have someone that agrees with you, you actually release from your body an electromagnetic field that draws from the field of possibilities that you want, and it begins to show up. What shows up first, Randy? Relationships. Everything that happens in our lives happens because of great relationships. I'll challenge you that you are one relationship away from meeting someone who can make every one of your dreams, wishes, wants, and desires come to pass. But why would that person want to talk to you? What is the energy signature that you have? And so when we talk about success, the renewing of the mind, understanding wealth, understanding what money actually is, it's an energy. When you talk about wealth, we're not talking about actual paper wealth. We're talking about being a wealth magnet. Wealth is going to come to you because you are teaching people about managing money. So it's going to come to you because now you have to be the proven fact to the system of what it is that you believe. So when I'm teaching these principles, it has to happen. I don't think in lack. I don't have any concept of something not happening in my life. It's got to happen because I have to continue to carry on this wisdom and this thought process to someone else. And you actually become the wealth. You become the greatness inside because of the picture that's in your body. Because I say this all the time. You don't get out of life what you want. You get out of life who you are. Now, that'll challenge some people because they keep talking about who's in their life. Well, I can tell you right now, it's only a reflection of who you are. You are attracting relationships that are who you are. But if you change who you are, then those relationships will change. And then those connections will change. And now, once you get in a room with someone, you're going to be in a room, and I can see this right now. You're going to be in a room where your energy signature is going to put out an electromagnetic field and someone else's energy signature that can bring your vision to pass with one check, writing that I literally believe in what you say and write that check. And it happens. It happens so many times, but we don't believe it can happen because we still are in that place where from 0 to 7 years old, where you taught that anything can happen. People talk about Donald Trump, and I might get in trouble with this, but you talk about someone who was taught from 0 to 7 years old, you can have anything that you want. And that's how he acts. It may be narcissistic to some people. It may be a thought process that is offensive to some people, but the man truly believes he can have whatever he wants. I told this story in a sermon that I preached many years ago. How did he become president? He envisioned himself in the Oval Office. It started with a thought. It started with a vision. And there were people around him that didn't agree with that vision. And you know what he did? He got rid of them. Now, we talk about this all the time, but we could take a page out of his book. You have people in your life that don't agree with you, but we keep carrying those people under the heading of their family, their loved ones. Now, watch this. What did they say to Jesus when he said, hey, your mother and your brother are outside? He said, who is my mother? Who is my brother? Except ye do the will of the Father, are you my family? Now, that sounded harsh, but what he was doing was giving us a glimpse into how it is that we can operate in these levels of success. You've got to get with like-minded people. You've got to surround yourself with people who can not only see your vision, but believe in your vision and begin to speak it. And I'm telling you, what happens, it causes and creates something biophysically in your body, and that is your subconscious mind. You are then going to put out an energy signature, an electromagnetic field that's going to change the atoms of what is it that is your immediate surroundings. And first and foremost, the one thing it's going to change is your relationships. You're going to begin to see that there are people who have been pulling you away from actually achieving the higher levels of success, the higher goals, if you will. And we don't always understand how detrimental these relationships are. But chapter 2 of my book, which is the longest chapter of my book, and it was the most gut-wrenching chapter, because the more I wrote it, the more convicted I was, and I had to do some internal work and to see why it is that I keep attracting these Toxic relationships. You know, I teach people this, and I know I'm going on and on, but I teach people that you always choose a partner or a relationship at the lowest level of your existence. In my book, I have what's called the intelligence stratum. And what you were talking about earlier, the first level of the intelligence stratum I call primal. Primal is when people wake up and the only thing that they can think about is what are they going to eat, and then the physical aspects of their sexual organs. So now you can see this in the dilapidated streets of Louisiana. I can see it in the dilapidated streets in Chicago. All they're worried about is eating and sex. And we're going to keep it PG.
Right.
Now, if you can understand that, then you can see that these people are at intelligence level or an intellectual level. There are 7 other levels that I teach on. The third level deals with basic level of intelligence. And that's when you can believe in God to do something. Well, now you go into some levels where I call the clairvoyant, constructive, and innovative. And that's when you can believe and think something, and you can begin to create and believe what you believe and think in an invisible realm. You can begin to do these things. And now we're talking about the Steve Jobs, and we're talking about the Jeff Bezos. They had a mindset that they were creating in an invisible realm. You hear Steve Jobs say, one day, every person on the planet is going to have one of my phones. They looked at him like he was crazy. But this is what we've got to do. And this is what our children are not doing. They're so caught up in what's on the TV and what's in front of them on TikTok, on Facebook, on Kick, that they have lost the ability to have an imagination. And with that imagination, that's the thought process I start with. When you can think these things, when you can think and dream on a bigger level, your body creates hormones in your pituitary gland that is a biophysical image of that. And it goes right back to what I teach. You don't get out of life what you want, you get out of life who you are.
Oh, that's
I need some water now.
Yeah.
You need some.
That was a blessing. I'm gonna work on some pituitary glands up in here. I'm gonna take the video games out the room.
Come on. We don't even know the damage that it's doing. But I'm telling you, Randy and Veronica, you all are doing a great work. And I am so proud to just be a part of you all's network. And I'm honored that you even invited me on the show. You know, I'm excited about all this research. You know, I tell people, and I hope this isn't offensive to anyone listening, but I studied myself out of organized religion, because what I found out is a lot of times churches become just as addictive as crack cocaine, where we go only to get the rush of the emotions of what I'm teaching now. It's just a hormonal rush. And that is replacing the true essence of us having a dream and us literally having that dream become something that our bodies create. We're living by way of what the preacher's saying. And I decided that I'm going to invest in people's lives. I want to see you be great, and not with a theoretical approach, but I want to talk about even when we hit those moments and those times where we're stuck because of traumas. And I teach really heavy on traumas because there are a lot of people stuck, and we don't even realize a lot of times that our upbringing actually led to traumas that are keeping us in a mindset that has us not being able to even dream or think that we're able or capable. In some cases, just because of our skin color, because we don't see anyone with our skin color doing what we think that we should be able to do. And this is why it's important for you all to continue the work that you're doing and to actually achieve those levels of greatness that I can see all over you, because you have got to be an image to these young children coming up, because they don't have it anymore. All they have is the drug dealer and the basketball player. If you ask a young child in school right now, which is actually becoming a thing of the past, what do you want to be when you grow up? They say they want to be a rapper or a basketball player. Why? Or a football player, because that is who they see driving the cars and doing all these things. And it's not their fault that that's all they see, because we're not exposing them to the firefighters. I can't tell you how many times that I don't see people. There used to be a time where we used to go on field trips to the firehouse so we could see who our heroes were. Now we don't even go. And we have African-American firefighters here in Chicago. I'm one of them, that I welcome children to come in, and we treat these children like, because this is something that you can do. It doesn't take, nothing against firefighters, but it is not the most intellectual job in the world. But it says something about who I am, that I'm running in a fire when everybody else is running out. Mm-hmm. Well, I got that same mentality when it comes to actually going in and unseating the negative thoughts in people's heads. I'm going in when everybody else is running away. Mm-hmm. There are people who and I know there's a grace on your life that you take on people that nobody else wants to deal with because you can see greatness in them. But I'm going to share something with you, Randy and Veronica. We have to be careful with that too, because people will draw your energy into that and suck out of that. There has to be a balance. And I learned this being a pastor for 10 years. So just going back to what I've done, I pastored a church for 10 years. And then it came a point where I met a great guy, Les Brown, who spoke into my life. And he said, man, your message needs to go beyond the four walls of the church. Mm-hmm. And what he did is he gave me an assignment to learn the personal development language. I partnered with my business partner now who helped develop that aspect of me and being able to teach from psychology to anatomy and physiology to religion to actually understanding how all these things work in tandem. Because if we can't speak to the mindset of the person who understands science, not to say you always got to talk science, but I know how to get in a room with someone, and I've been in a room where I actually begin to talk about peptides. I talk about the hypothalamus. I talk about pituitary gland. I talk about hormones, and they're surprised that I'm able to marry the concept of what you actually think into what actually comes out. And so we just always associate, and I hate to put it, skin color with success. Mm-hmm. And we got to right. be rid of that, because there was a systematic approach to mm-hmm. destroying the concept of being able to have a certain hue of skin to success. And I come against that with everything I got, because we all can think on this level, but it takes someone to actually go in and understanding the dynamics of trauma, understanding what was taught from 0 to 7, and being able to now set in place, because I don't teach going back and dealing with the trauma. I don't mm-hmm. teach understanding that. We got to give you something to focus on first. Mm-hmm. And we're going to focus on that dream first. We got to articulate that dream to the point where you can actually say it with your own voice. I want this. And we've been taught to not want anything. Some right. churches actually teach that success is a sin. Yeah. And I'm like, as soon as they say that, you better run the hell up out of there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because they nothing in the Bible that say that.
Right.
And there's nothing from a religious standpoint that came from slavery. That came from teaching people that they need to be here instead of being there. You got a mindset that is unlike any other, that you are capable and able. I talk about growth in my book, and I'm going on, but I'm excited about this work.
You're good, sir. That's why we wanted you on.
Your body and understanding the concept of growth, you need to understand that planting a seed in your body, just like seed time and harvest outside, planting a seed in your body. We're so used to trying to chase after wealth, chase after a dream. We got to learn how to sow the seed of that dream in our body and allow our bodies to do what they were created to do. Did you know that you as a human being, you are the only species on the planet that can think themselves to be something other than they are and become it? Now, I'm going to challenge you. Do you think a cow can wake up and say, I don't want to be a cow anymore tomorrow? No. Absolutely not. A monkey can't wake up and say, I don't want to be a monkey anymore. I want to be a giraffe. But you know what? Today, you can go to sleep and dream and wake up and say, I want to be a doctor. And then begin to do the things that actually have you to become just that. I want to be a scientist. You can actually become that. Think that. And actually start the work to become that, connect with other people that help facilitate that, and it will manifest. No other species on the planet can do that. But they're trying to take that away from us. They're trying to take the concept of the dream away from us. I talked to Les Brown many years ago about him going over to Africa and ministering in Africa and speaking to audiences in Africa. And he began to talk about a dream. And the whole audience was looking like, what is he talking about? At that moment, he realized that he was speaking to an audience that did not have the concept of a dream. Man, when I tell you that's what they're attempting to do with all of this social media, all of these video games, they are robbing us of the ability to dream.
Right.
And that dream in and of itself is the beginning of the facilitation and manifestation of wealth and coming out of the poverty-stricken mindset. I'm excited about what you all are teaching, but man, we've got to get these people out of the mindset of poverty. And that's because if even when you do share with them, and we walk, I know you walk people through reading their credit.
You know it.
Man, you walk, hold them hand by hand and get them to a place. We got your credit cleared. We got you to the point where you now can close on this home. We got you money that even if you decide in a few years that you want to pull money out, you can. I'm sure you walk people through that process only to come find out that they're back in the place that they were, and more times than not, worse off.
Yep.
And that's the crazy thing. So that being said, brother, I would love to partner with you in doing a seminar and actually taking a part of the seminar and actually working on the mindset, working on the biophysical aspects of teaching people how to dream. Because if they can't dream it, and I learned this from a mentor of mine many years ago, Dr. Nasser Siddiqui. He said, you cannot live in another man's dream. I'm going to give you a moment to think about that.
Right.
Because you have many people that are trying to live in what you see in them as potential. And so it's your dream. And they can't dream. So you can see that, man, you got potential to do this. You can be great. But until they dream it, until it becomes their reality, brother, man, we're doing a work that'll never take place.
And I'm excited about this information that you're bringing forward because you're extremely knowledgeable. You're very passionate, and you could tell that you actually care. And I was telling the children over the weekend, we was talking about how you can create, right? And so I was just breaking it down on a smaller level. I'm like, listen, when mom said, hey, what do you want to eat for breakfast? You're thinking, okay, what do I want to eat? What do I want to eat? Okay, I want to do some grits and eggs and maybe toast bread, etc. That's a thought. The next thing is, now, if you've never done it before, what's the ingredients? Or we could use any dish, right? Red beans, whatever the dish is, a gumbo pot. You have to have what? The ingredients. You have to have a plan. It's written down. It's clear, right? So now you follow that plan. You put the ingredients in the way it's supposed to be put in. And all of a sudden, boom, you have a dish. The dish is what? Created. Chefs do it all the time in restaurants. They create dish. And so I was even talking to the kids, say, listen, you guys change your room around maybe every quarter, right? Every year, once every 3 months, you change your room around. First, you have to think the thought, how would I want my room to look like? I'm going to put my TV on this wall, my bed on this wall. That's a part of creation. So we create every single day on small stuff, but we are afraid to think and create on the bigger stuff. So like you just said earlier, and you have to be willing, I use this term, you have to be willing to participate in your own rescue.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah. And the way you put it, like the fake confessions. I love that, the fake confession, because you hear about auto suggestions, you hear about these terms, but that fake confession, like you said, you speak it enough. I am, from the standpoint of I am that.
Absolutely.
I am that. And like one of your videos I was watching, you said that once you think in that thought and you become that, then you announce to the world that I am.
Absolutely. And what we used to teach was when you say it over and over again, and it's almost the concept of lying, okay? I am more than a conqueror, and everything around you is saying that you're defeated. Well, what happens is one day your inner man or your subconscious mind is going to believe what you're saying. And then there's going to be an expression from you that is conquering. But it starts with you. It starts with what it is that you're saying to yourself. It starts with what you believe about yourself. And that's the real issue, man. People really don't believe that they're capable of doing these things. And this is why it's important for us to raise up and actually create leaders who are not afraid to blaze trails, to do the work, to actually stand up and not be compromised because of a little bit of money that they may get. And I ain't gonna talk about politicians, but you know what I'm talking about, bro.
No, I was about to say, so we say it all the time, for people that's constantly telling lies, you say, well, hey, you tell that lie long enough, you're
gonna believe it.
To believe it.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
That's right. And so, at the end of the day, I remember listening to you tell a story about Les Brown. You touched up on it, how you tell a quick story of how you actually met Les Brown. You were telling a story, you was at a seminar, you never seen him before, never heard him speak before.
Right. Yeah. And this a pretty powerful story, because that was like it was a life-changing moment for me. And I almost let fear, but there was something that was to be said about the energy signatures of the two of us, that destiny was being created at that moment. So friend of mine, I was with him yesterday, Pastor Lawrence Henderson. He actually owns a restaurant here in Chicago, wonderful soul food restaurant, Ruby's. He was doing a John Maxwell training, and he's like, bro, I want to do this training. I had no interest in John Maxwell. I said, but I'm going to do it because I understand the concept of joining with another brother so they can facilitate their dream. So I went to the final session, and it was in Florida, and they had a surprise guest, and out comes Les Brown. And my mom had been trying to get me to listen to Les Brown for many years. And, I've rode with the rest of the people who there were rumors about him, and Gladys Knight and this and that and the other. And I was real churchified at the time. And I'm like, yeah, I ain't interested. But when the man spoke, I said this out of my mouth. I said, I'm supposed to be connected to him. So I told Lawrence, I said, I'm going to go to the restroom. I walk outside, and outside he's right outside the auditorium shaking hands. And so our eyes met, and I went over and I introduced myself. And right before I left to come to the conference, I had made some business cards. My previous mentor, Dr. Nasser Siddiqui, said, always have business cards. Don't ever show up any place without a business card. So I had a business card, and I was getting ready to walk away, because I said to myself, now listen to the defeated mindset. I said to myself, why would Les Brown want your business card? Now, where did that thought come from, man?
Right. Limit to believe.
Oh my God. And so that moment, I'm going to tell you, it was so important that he and I connect. I was getting ready to walk away defeated with me listening to a thought that was not in alignment with my destiny. And he said, do you have a business card? Now, where did that come from?
Right.
This is why I'm telling you, the inner work is so important, because my energy signature and what I had done with respect to my subconscious mind had actually put out an electromagnetic field that was matching up with his electromagnetic field, that it was a connection that was supposed to be made. And it was so important that defeated thought that would have had me walk away from what was to catapult me into my destiny was excluded and alleviated by my subconscious program, brother. And so I gave him the business card. He called me and said, what can I do for you? I didn't even know. Now, this is Les Brown, had no idea. So I went to study and did all this, and I talked to Lawrence, and I'm like, I don't even know what this man can do for me. So I had to go into prayer and to figure out what my next, thing was in life. And so on and so forth. He and I connected. I went to Florida and sat down with him, and he told me, he said, I went for a training with him, a one-on-one training. And he said, I can't teach you nothing. He said, you actually remind me of Louis Farrakhan meets Jesse Jackson. He said, you are an orator and a communicator. Right. He said, you play both sides of the court. He said, but what I can do is introduce you to someone that's going to help develop your language. He said, because at that time, I could not encourage anyone without using Jesus, God, and the Holy Spirit. And he showed me, he said, there's a time and place for that. You can show up to churches and you can give that lesson. He said, but I want you to be able to show up to audiences and be able to transition them into a place and a state where they come away from an encounter with you and they are changed forevermore. He said, so I want you to learn a different language, and not to say or take away from anything that you already have. He told me, and I'm going on record, he told me T.D. Jakes told him that he wished that he was doing what he's doing. And if you watch T.D. Jakes and what he's doing now, hasn't he shifted into personal development?
Yeah.
He has.
So, and so I thought to him, but I know that they're close friends. And I thought, I'm like, but I now see that there is a shift in that direction. Even your boy in in Texas. What is his name? That has the big Superdome. Joel Osteen. Personal development.
Yep.
He's doing personal development at the end of the day.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
people can say what they want. I've had many critics that have attacked me, and I won't even go into it. But based off of some of the videos that I release, they're like, "Are you even a Christian anymore?" And then I'll send them the full video. I said it was just a clip that I actually talked about the subconscious mind. I talked about biophysical aspects. I talked about psychology. But I can walk into any place. You can put me in front of any audience, and I can help move that audience and shift them into a new dynamic or into a new paradigm, if you will, and help them to facilitate what it is that they want to be. What do you want? It all starts with that. I'm telling you, man, I'm so excited about it. But it starts with that.
Absolutely. And like you said, you have to be able to choose your future. I heard you say on one of the videos, you have to be willing to design your life. Like, what do you really want? Like, you at a point in your life where you busted, you broke, and my quick story, right? Like I mentioned, I come from New Orleans, born and raised in New Orleans. I come from a 2-parent household. I had an older brother that was 11 years older than me, and I had a brother that was 16 years older than me. He was in and out of jail all of my life, my oldest brother. So I didn't know him, right? My other brother was 11 years older than me. He used to tell me stories of things that he went through and his friends went through as a teenager in hopes that I can avoid some of those things. My mom and dad, they taught me how to be a man, how to be a husband, right? How to be a good person, right? Gave me the scriptures. And even though I had all that support at home, I still became an at-risk youth growing up in the city of New Orleans. Got in trouble twice my 12th grade year. At the age of 19, I had my son. I became a struggling teenage father. By the time I made 25 years old, I was making pretty good money, as the world would say, but I didn't have the financial education. I didn't have the proper mindset, and money was going right out the door for clothes, cars, and all the other good stuff.
Right.
And so when Hurricane Katrina came to New Orleans in 2005, I found myself in Atlanta, Georgia, sitting in a hotel room with my feet flat against the floor, elbows in my lap, just staring at the news constantly because I was worried about my hometown, right? And so I saw a clip with a video of a grocery store that was nearby my home with water above the roof line. Wow. And I knew I was homeless at that point. But here was the kicker. At that time, I had less than $500 in my bank account because I was spending everything I had. My credit score was horrible. It was in the low 500s. So I was broke. I was busted, but I was broken. I hit literally rock bottom. And at that time, my thought was, I cannot allow this to happen again. Thank the Most High God, he kept the roof over our head. He kept bread and water and clothes on us. We was able to leave out of the hotel room 2-3 weeks later after FEMA paid for it. And then we moved into an apartment complex. And when we went to that apartment complex, we literally slept on that floor with no covers, no pillows, no nothing that first night.
Wow.
And I remember holding my son like, you know what? This can't happen. So my brother, who was 11 years older than me, purchased a home 1 year prior to Hurricane Katrina. He was about 20, 30 minutes away from New Orleans. Nothing was wrong with his home. So he started sharing with me his story and his resources and the skills of how to buy a home. And I ended up purchasing a home that following year because my mindset changed. My vision changed. I said, listen, I have to be a homeowner, right? So I was able to, 1, raise up my credit score, 2, save some money because I got myself in a positive cash flow cycle. I was able to find that mentor, that person that you could connect with that you mentioned earlier, and took me to that level.
Absolutely.
And now, 1 year later, at the age of 26 years old, in 2006, in December, in fact, I bought my first home. And then 30 days later, I bought my first duplex, which was a cash flowing property. So family members and friends was like, how did you do that, right? You're 26, you bought 2 properties. And the first thing I was telling them is the thinking. I had to change my mindset.
You changed your mind.
I started sharing them the resources and tools I have. And then lo and behold, I met my wife. She was in the banking industry. We started buying property. It fast forward today. Well, now we passionate about giving back because I know what it looks like to be broken.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
That is a bad state. I hear Les Brown say all the time. He's like, listen, I was so broke. I walked past the the bank and the alarm go off, right?
Right.
I remember Lester and my kids used to answer the phone when the creditors called.
Right.
Daddy said
They're not here. Right.
And I'm sure many people heard this before, but I tell that story because at the end of the day, it was a mindset shift. And today, like you say, even today, my wife and I have our vision board. We talk about it every day because one thing we know, that power of the subconscious mind. And just a quick touch on my story real quick. I remember for years and years and years and years and years, I was working hard physically. I was marketing, I was branding, I was studying this, studying that. I'm going physically. And I'll have spurts of success. Mm-hmm. Then some way, somehow it goes away, right? And then when I realized that I was working hard in the physical, but it didn't exist yet. It started in the spiritual. I had to first create it in my vision. I had to first create it in my spirit first, that I am that. Then it'll reproduce itself in the
Absolutely. I love how you put that.
So we definitely going to continue this conversation. We definitely gonna connect with you because we have to do these seminars. It's imperative. Be able to potentially save a lot of lives, sir.
Lives. And you spoke earlier, and I really want to, the next time we talk, I really want to go into what you were actually talking about, because you spoke on something, and I know where you were going, but people really need to understand why COVID-19 is hitting certain people more so than others. And it has everything to do with stress hormones. It has everything to do with the immune system and the susceptibility, what you actually believe. When this thing hit, one of the faith confessions that I say is, no evil will befall me and no plague shall come near my dwelling. So I have no doubt in my mind that any of my children, any person in my house, or anyone that I'm associated with that is connected to me, can COVID-19 come upon their body. It may come to them, but it cannot come upon their body. And it starts with what you believe. And it sounds crazy, but I'm sharing with you, when this thing is all said and done with, there are going to be research and studies that show that there were people who had mindsets that it could not come upon their bodies. And that was the deciding factor as to whether they would be susceptible to COVID-19. So, you know, Absolutely. I don't want to get too into that, because there's a lot of sensitivity to that. Yes. And there are many people who have lost loved ones because of this horrible pandemic. And I am extremely sensitive to that. But we need to understand why and what's actually taking place. You can actually believe yourself into an existence that no disease can come upon your body. Cancer has not the ability to come upon my body. I don't care what it is that I've done. I don't care what it is that I've eaten. It starts with a mindset, and your body creates things on the inside that even if it came upon, because people don't even know what cancer is. And we'll go into that in the future, but this is where my studies have led. So I still am studying histories of religions and studying the different concepts of the Christian faith. I've been to Jordan. I've been to Israel. I've walked the steps of Jesus. I've done things that many ministers will never, ever be able to do. I've done these things. So my studies are extensive in that area, but my studies didn't stop there. I studied psychology. I studied anatomy and physiology. I studied what it is that is the why and the how to what's going on. And that's important, because in all I get an understanding. I read that.
Right. And just to add, I mean, everything goes back to the belief. Before Christ healed anyone, the question he asked them was, do you believe?
He sure did. He sure did. You better preach that, girl.
Absolutely. So we are almost at the end of the broadcast, sir, but we have some questions if you don't mind.
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead. Come on with it.
So here's the first question. If you could go back in time and coach the younger Dr. Taylor, what financial advice and life advice would you give him?
I got to go back to relationships. Everything that's taken place is as a result of relationships. And I believe that a lot of times we partner with people that we can feel comfortable with. And it has more to do with our upbringing, because many of us are not comfortable with being challenged by someone who could lead us into a different dynamic or into a different mindset. So I would definitely tell the younger Ezekiel to be more mindful about the relationships that you cultivate. And the people who, you know, we make choices and decisions. I'll keep it 100 with you. I love y'all. I chose mates because of how pretty I thought they were. And pretty was a concept that I got from outside resources that had nothing to do with the security that I had in and of myself. So it was based off of insecurity. So more times than not, we start off as insecure young men with raging hormones, making choices and decisions based off of things that we saw on TV or conversations we had with our buddies. And then we end up having children or marrying people based off of that. And I share with my children now, be more cognizant about who you hook up with and make sure that you all are like-minded. How can two walk together lest they be in agreement? And that is so important. Yep. And understanding that there's someone who also has a vision, who can support your vision. So telling that younger Ezekiel, be more cognizant about relationships.
Awesome.
Answer to that question.
That sounds like what we tell our children.
Absolutely.
Be careful with who you have children with.
Right.
That's you better know it.
Here's the next question.
Yeah.
Here's the next question. Why did you decide to become a speaker, a motivational speaker, and a life transformation coach?
Okay, that's a great question. I've always been one, even as a child, I had a friend who was in an abusive family situation, and I started rescuing as a teenager. I was always looking to rescue others, and my thing was to have something to say. You know, there are a lot of people that want to talk, especially now you got this social media platform. Everybody got something to say, but are you qualified to speak on what it is that you're speaking on? You know, people will come after watching a YouTube video and they want to chop up what I said, and I'm like, what have you read? Where did your studies come from? All you're doing is repeating something that you heard somebody say on a YouTube video. So I say all that to say, where exactly? Now, where is your fruit? So yeah, that being said, I gotta say that I made some choices and some decisions that, going back, I can honestly say that just speaking to the younger Ezekiel. What was the question? I got it on a tangent.
Sure. No worries. Why did you decide?
Oh, why I wanted to become a speaker. So I went into a motivational speaker. So then I sat at the table. I used to sit at the table with an uncle of mine from Nigeria, and I started in seminary just because I wanted to learn the Bible. I had a problem with the speaker knowing more than I knew and just going off of what he was saying. So I started studying the Bible and going to seminary, and my life wasn't in alignment with a seminary student at the time. I even had a conversation with my dean, and I was just forthcoming with him that I know I signed this contract saying that my life needed to line up, but I'm going to come to you out of counseling to let you know it's not, but I want to be in school. And I believe that this message, this word, is going to change my life. And that's exactly what it did. So in that, I'm sitting with my uncle one day, and he said, you know what, every time I come over your house, you have something knowledgeable and wisdom to drop. And like I said, he's an older guy from Nigeria. He said, I call your house a house of knowledge. And he said, you need to start sharing this information. And so at the time, I was doing hair shows, traveling the world with Farouk Systems, doing hair shows, living the life. We'll talk about that later, but I was making good money. I was around great people in New York at the IBS show, in Chicago. I was all over the place, in Miami doing shows. I was the star of the stage. And so I said, okay, what I'll do is one day during the week, I'll do a Bible study. So I rented out a hotel room, conference room, and I just started teaching one day a week. And then one day, an excited utterance, if you will, came upon me, and I said, God has told me I'm supposed to start Sunday services. Well, unbeknownst to me at the time, because I was in the spirit, of course, I didn't realize I was then retiring from being a platform artist. So I couldn't go back. I just announced to all these people that now I'm going to start Sunday service. I can't say, I changed my mind.
Right.
But I did. I started Sunday services, and, you know, it was hard because I did not want to fall under the heading of any denomination. I didn't want anybody to tell me what I could and couldn't teach. And I was very intricate about the soundness of what it is that I presented. And I can say, going back and looking at what I taught over those years as a pastor, There were a few times that I was incorrect, and I actually went before the public and I said, I stand corrected, which a lot of people won't do. But I thought I believed that I needed to do that because there will come a day that people are going to challenge me on everything I say. And I can honestly say I have not been hypocritical in anything that I taught. So that being the case, I just wanted to invest in people. I never took a salary as a pastor from the church. I actually cooked. I drove the church van. I picked people up. I mean, I did it all. And I led by example. We were holding services in a movie theater here. I would get there early and I would set up the equipment. And so I led by example. If no one else was there, I was setting up the equipment. I led praise and worship. They'll tell you in a heartbeat. They said, he going to sing and then he going to change and put on the tie and then he going to come out and teach. And then I would go downstairs and I would serve. And what I found, and this is speaking back to you, we got to be careful when we're doing so much, because a lot of times, and what I learned in that process is I was enabling a lot of people. Because instead of putting them in a position that they too would become servants, I was doing it and people would sit back and just watch me do it. And then I begin to get bitter because I'm like, okay, I get it that I'm not that pastor that makes you carry my briefcase, or I'm not that pastor that you got to show up and open the door and do all of this. And no, I was the pastor that after service, I was downstairs and I'm serving. I serving the food that I cooked. So I was that guy. So I have a servant's heart, but I shared with a young man, Glenn Bill, on the last podcast I did. I said, I had to come to myself. One of my older pastors told me when I was doing men's ministry, he said, Zeke, you got to stop giving these brothers everything. And I didn't understand. I'm like, why can't I just be a blessing? But I did understand. He said, you have to show them that they have to invest. When people don't value you, Randy, you, Veronica, when they don't value what it is that you are bringing to the table, they are not going to receive. Now take a moment and think about that. When they pay, and I know it sounds harsh, especially from one giver to another giver, you got to place a number where people feel, and I learned this from Les, when I sacrifice, and he told me, he said, if it's important to you, then you'll make it happen. And I sacrificed some things. And when I sat down with him, I valued his time because I paid for it. And we're in a position where we don't want to charge people because we think that, man, these people will find ways to get money for weed. I said it out loud. They'll find ways to get money for alcohol. They'll find ways to get money to do the things that they want to do. Let them find a way to get money to sit in one of your seminars. I learned that from what's my man's name that does all the Tony Robbins. I learned that from Tony Robbins. I learned that from Les Brown. But this is one thing that I'm learning from the greats. They have spirits of giving. They have giving hearts. But until you challenge somebody and put them in a position that they actually bring a sacrifice, if you will, in order to sit at your feet, that's when they'll value what it is. And even if you decide to give it right back to them, their mindset has been curated to now receive the information on another level. And that's what I want to encourage you all to do. And don't be afraid to step out and place value on what it is that you all are doing. Your seminar should cost something. And when it is that you have 5 people in that seminar, let those 5 people have paid their $1,000 to get in that seminar, and let those 5 people now become the people who you coached and got to the millionaire status. And you can say, had it been you who sacrificed the $1,000, you can now be a millionaire.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. So listen, with that being said, one last final question, sir.
I'm going to try not to be long-winded with
it. We enjoying it.
Trust me, like we are, I agree, we are enjoying it. I'm sure our audience is enjoying it. So, we're just excited. And here's that final question. How can someone connect with you and to be able to learn more about your seminars, your coaching, and your book as well?
Okay, well, my book is on Amazon.com. If you just go on Amazon.com and do a search for Dr. Ezekiel Taylor, Process of Fulfillment. I actually have 3 books. I wrote one that is a scriptural reference edition, and I did that specifically for my counterparts from the church that says Zeke just left the church and didn't leave anything. No, I wrote a Process of Fulfillment that has scriptural references in it. And then we have a Process of Fulfillment that is the personal development edition. And then I also have a workbook. And so I'd like to tell people that if you can't connect with the mentor, then start with the reading materials. I got plenty of stuff on YouTube and on social media that you can start with. And if not, reach out to me, Dr. Ezekiel Taylor at gmail.com. I'm Dr. Ezekiel Taylor on Instagram, Ezekiel Taylor on Facebook, and then I do have a professional page on Facebook as well, Dr. Ezekiel Taylor. Message me. When I get messages, I do return the messages, and reach out to me. And if there's someone, I'm in a position that I'm taking on a few coaching clients at this point. My birthday's coming up, so I'm gonna be out of town most of June. In June, I just take out the time so I can celebrate me.
Yes,
you got to celebrate yourself sometimes, brother.
Yes, sir.
Man, sometimes you wait on your kids to celebrate you, and they show up, and it's like, it really. Happy Father's Day, huh? Happy Father's Day. Dad, you going barbecue on Father's Day? It's Father's Day. Why don't y'all barbecue? So I take out the time to do that. But so if I don't get back to you immediately in June, know that I'm celebrating my birthday, and I will get back to you. Look out for some upcoming seminars. I'm with a dynamic man, one of the foremost minds on the planet. I've connected with Dr. Milton Howard Jr., the CEO and founder of HD Life. I am the international spokesperson for HD Life. Man, we're about to come out with some stuff, and it's going to. One of the mentors of the company is Maurice Starr, who actually launched New Edition and New Kids on the Block. So we have a model that we're following that will put us in a position, thank you for that happy birthday, put us in a position that when we launch, it's just going to be a snowball effect to whereas things are going to happen, because what we're presenting is going to be unequivocal. Nothing on, we've studied the industry, we studied what people are doing, and pretty much everyone is trying to mock Tony Robbins. We are not coming to mock Tony Robbins. We have an entirely different approach. We have products, we have services. We're going to match music and help to show you how music can actually help facilitate your dream and actually writing songs that will put you in a position that if you listen to this music over and over again, check your playlist. When I sit down and coach someone and I listen to them talk, one of the things Dr. Howard showed me, he said, ask to see their playlist. And you'll find out there are a lot of people that are listening to music and they don't believe or even have a concept to the fact that music is actually contributing to what it is that is who they are internally, and that's what they're seeing externally. So understanding that concept, we have developed a way that we can write music, not myself personally, I help in other areas, but write music that will help facilitate people's dreams. So when we talk about the seminars and things that are coming up, stay tuned. In the meantime, Dave Jeff, my partner, my brother, he's a deacon in the church. We're putting together some things, and COVID really hit. I was getting ready to do a lot with Les Brown and with Dave. We're starting a concept and an approach called Dig Deep, Go Higher, where we're going to do some monthly seminars here just to get something started with people, because a lot of people have left the church. And I know it's sad, but people have left the church because they've given up on what it is that the church was giving out. And I'm here as a pastor, former pastor, but now from a different standpoint. So I do have the ability to coach and to lead people if that's what they want. You know, you want me to talk to you from the Word of God, I can talk strictly from that. But there's so much more when speaking to people to help them get beyond traumas, help them get beyond where they are so they can live the life that they want. So I hope I answered that question. So Dr. Ezekiel Taylor, Dr. Ezekiel Taylor at gmail.com, Process of Fulfillment on Amazon.com. Reach out to me, DM me on IG, Dr. Ezekiel Taylor on Facebook, and Ezekiel Taylor, which is just the personal page I have. I will respond, and if you guys want more, I got more to give. I love you. I appreciate everything that you all are doing, man, and I'm looking forward to partnering with you all in your endeavors and helping to facilitate. I see you and I believe in your dream. I agree with it, and I'm excited about it.
Sir. Awesome. Listen, it's been great, guys. Listen, I'm Randy Chambliss, and you can reach out to me on Facebook and Instagram at Mr. Randy Chambliss. You can find me online at randyknowsmortgages.com. You can also send me a text, so pick up the phone and call me. My direct number is 504-270-2783.
And I'm Veronica Chambliss. I can be found on Facebook and Instagram under Veronica Chambliss. My direct contact number is 504-715-4388. And I'm also online at vknowsmortgages.com. And also, guys, we do look over, if you're in the process of purchasing a home, we can actually look over your loan documents to make sure that you're in the right product, not overpaying in fees. So just know that you can reach out to us, okay?
Absolutely. The point of that is that we do free consultations right now. You know, we want to be able to promote responsible homeownership, but it starts with the proper mindset. And that's why we wanted Dr. Taylor to come in and help our audience with that proper mindset. So listen, guys, God bless. Enjoy the rest of your night on purpose. And I mean that. Take care.
That brings today's show to a close.
Oh, come on.
Thank you for listening.
That's pretty cool.
If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to share it with a friend and subscribe. Please follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at The Mortgage Wise Radio Show. If you want to learn more about what we talked about today, give us a call at 504-270-2783. Or to view our podcast library, please visit our website, themortgagewiseradioshow.com.
Autobots,
Roll out.
roll out.
Until next time.
That's pretty cool.
Yes, Mortgage Wise friends.
Go home.
Go home.
All right, Dr. Taylor. God bless you, sir. Thank you.
God
for
bless you
everything.
too, man.
We're gonna
Oh,
connect very
absolutely.
soon. Take
All
care.
right.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Alrighty, bye-bye.